How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Thurgood of VEDA Communications of VEDACOM.com. That is VEDACOM with two M's.com. VEDACOMM.com. I'm a sociologist and photojournalist, and I'm sitting here today with
Chris Fernandez, Eldorado News.
John Foster Tennis.
Okay, so we're going to be covering sports today, from tennis to soccer. Well, most people around the world like to call football, maybe do a little bit of boxing today. We got the full gamut today. You hear me, ladies and gentlemen? And today we're going to talk about something that's going to be highly controversial, but I'm going to leave that for Chris to talk about. Go ahead and hit him off.
All righty, folks. Hey, again, Chris Fernandez, Eldorado News, Eldorado Magazine. Forgot that one. But hey, let's go ahead and start off with a little bit of tennis. And for that, we have our tennis professional, Mr. John Foster. John, how's tennis looking? What is it looking like? I know that we're trying to make some big changes to see if we can get some American representation out there in tennis.
American talent, yeah, where is it? You know, that's it, Chris. There's no talent in America, that's what it is. You haven't had a number one player
I was
since,
trying not to say that.
Yeah, well,
Right.
no, and I don't think we're going to get there. You just covered the River Oaks tournament. That was fun.
Which was, let me say, the
Yeah.
ATP 250 was a great clay tennis format. Great tennis players from all over the world came to this one. You guys, if you were not there, you just simply missed it. But, you know, we cut that last article out of VEDACOM and with you on the cover, and it was the fact, or at least alluding to the fact, that is tennis dead in America? That is the number one question that people want to know today. Is tennis dead in America?
It's not dead. It's very much alive, but
Okay.
it's on cardiac arrest, you know.
Hey, call
Cardiac
911.
arrest.
Okay.
911. You know, I talk with some people that I know, some big people. God bless them. Tim Heckler. I used to in the early 2000s. I had a lot more to do. I was getting the students for all the videos for, when they were doing the videos. You probably saw me on TV, just a little flash, representing the United States Professional Teaching Association. I was in the commercials, which was cool. Thanks to my boss, Van Barry, he didn't want to do it, so I did it, and I got all that PR, or whatever, exposure. It's really changed pickleball. The USTA, I'm sorry to say it, they sold tennis out.
Wow.
Tim Heckler would be rolling around in his grave right now, and I knew Tim loved tennis. I was looking up, I'm writing a book, American Tennis 2026, because, by the time I get, I got a lot more people to talk to, Andy Roddick, John McEnroe. John McEnroe was funny, they on Andy's show, he's got a great show, by the way. I didn't appreciate Andy so much as we used to have the coaches' parties over at his house, or we did one time, got to know his parents a little bit, and Andy was 14 years old. We had two other 14-year-olds, I think, that were better than Andy, or they considered him better. No, we didn't know that Andy would be, as great as he was, number one in the world in 2002 for about 13 weeks. But what a competitor. He elbowed me in a basketball game one time, I think in his backyard, and I was like, you little, and I refrained, I didn't go, but nailed me. But that's just the competitive nature. The animal, he competes and he's brilliant. I admire now since watching him on the Tennis Channel and watching him break down stuff. And now with his channel, it's genius. I would recommend it to anybody. I don't hold back. I'm going to do shows, but you want to watch a tennis show, that's the show. I have a lot of great information myself, more on the coaching end, and the playing end. I know a lot of stuff that maybe he doesn't, but he knows a lot more stuff than I do. So you got to take it for what it is there, but there's a lot of knowledge coming this way right here. When I worked for Rick Macy, I worked for Nick Bollettieri, I worked for the Everett family, I worked for Seguso and Bassett. I got to know Tim Heckler, who was the president for over 28 years or something with the USPTA, and I didn't know him for many years, and I was like, oh, who's that guy? And then came back into town after my academy went bust, and my old partner made it up to me, and he brought me out, and I'm running a drill group, and it's Tim Heckler and his wife and David, his son, and 2 pros and 4 top amateurs, and I'm running it. This is a good story, and we're going around and around, and I'm telling everybody what to do for about 2 hours. And I didn't know Tim at the time. I knew he was a CEO, and he sat there and he's listening to me, and I'm just doing my job, what I do, running the drills and telling everybody what to do and how they're going to get better with my system of training. And he turns to me and he goes, John, he says, I've been listening to you for about 2 hours, and there's not one thing you've said that I disagree with. I'm like, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because on the last interview that we did, between you two, you talked about something called rolling the ball. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, rolling the ball.
All right. Now, you're saying that is pretty much a lost art in tennis. In America. Okay, so for those that do not know what rolling the ball is, but they absolutely love tennis and are tennis fans, what is rolling the ball?
Yeah, topspin.
Topspin.
Topspin, underspin. I don't understand it. And there's so many coaches, friends of mine that teach, and they're very good teachers. And they don't teach topspin right from the beginning. I do. You can't, and here's something for you. I've been teaching, 38 years, since 1985 in the Bahamas at Club Med, where I really learned how to teach, and then I just have it for teaching. I can watch 6 courts and know what's going on all 6 courts, run my court, the other court, and 20 people on 2 courts. No other instructor could do it, even when I started out. And they wanted me to stay with Club Med. I'm like, I'm going to go pro. I'm going to, and I never wanted to be a coach.
But what is top spin, though?
Top spin.
Before we transition
we're getting. So top spin is how you control the ball. And in fact, I'm reading a book right now. When I first took up tennis, I don't know how, but I had a book called Top Spin and the Spin in the Ball by Bill Tilden. Bill Tilden was the greatest tennis player of the first half of the century, voted by Associated Press and 300 unanimous decision over Red Grange, Johnny Weissmuller, Babe Ruth, all these people. He was the greatest of the sport. He dominated tennis for 7 years, undefeated, almost 10 years on top, #1, never lost a match. He had some personal problems with his life. He went to jail for a little while, and but Bill Tilden's still one of the greatest. Well, I have one of his books, and it's Spinning the Ball. That's how you have feel. The great coaches, Nick Bollettieri, Rick Macy, Chris Bobbitt. I'll throw Chris Bobbitt in there. He worked with, David Dowling and Duke Odizar, and David won Kalamazoo. Chris played the #2 player in the world at River Oaks when he was a coach and almost won, great player. And from England, good friends with John Newcomb. Anyhow, Chris Bobbitt, Don Petrini. Now I say Don Petrini because that's the name, but his partner, Johnny Waddell, was my coach. And he got a lot of stuff from Don about feeling the ball. He always said, John, I'd hear him, I couldn't afford lessons with him, and I wasn't good enough to get lessons from him. So he's like, you got to feel the ball. And I could feel the ball. Well, I did start tennis late. I started when I was 15. I quit boxing. I was a boxer. Well, I was football and baseball. I wanted to be Joe Montana, Joe Theismann. And then I played tennis. I was a pitcher. And I think I have that. That's something that.
What's a good age, coach, for kiddos to start tennis?
I mean, you should cross-train up to like 8, 9, 10 years old, especially if you're a boy. Now, girls are a little different. And I think that's why Tim Heckler didn't want that orange ball, yellow ball. A girl has to be moving by 10 years old.
Wait, we're going to take a quick pause here because you have not defined what topspin is.
Top
I have to understand what
right.
Look, people want to know.
Run around. Topspin is how you control the ball.
Okay, sure.
How you control the ball. So America wants you to. Here's the system that we've had, and I'm trying to look it up. Who has it? USTA or USTA or who came up with this? And it's a system that we've gone by. I know there's pros that come off the tournament. Yeah, I'm going to teach by the control and then direction and then depth and then after you learn all that after a year or two, then we're going to teach you how to spin the ball and then we're going to teach you power. It cannot be taught like that. You're ruining players. And I'll explain. Okay. It's in the book. but I'll explain it to you if you want right now. Spin is how you feel the ball. When you hit a volley, and a lot of people hit a volley and they go like this, and there's many different ways to do it, and there's great players that do it different ways. So there's no one way to skin a cat.
Okay.
But if you wanna look at Ed Berg, Rafter, Pat Cash, Sampras, Federer, when they hit the ball, it's underspin. They're not hitting it flat. They're not doing this flat.
We got the top spin, but you talked about the underspin.
Underspin, right? It's all.
What is the difference, and how do
Okay.
you execute?
Right. The first lesson, and those of you with the curriculum coming out and with everything that I'm going to present as far as coaching, on the first lesson I have with even beginners, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, you know what I do? I show them top spin off the net. And that's another thing, I'm going to get into something that's ridiculous, how it's not even bad information that coaches are putting out nowadays. It's totally incorrect information. It's bad information. The racket's never closed like this. It's straight up and down when you hit the ball. And as an amateur, you probably have it 1 millimeter open or the ball's in the ground. You're hitting the ball between 10, 20, 30 miles an hour. Pros hit it between 65 and 100 miles an hour. You can't copy a pro swing as an amateur, and everybody's trying to teach the pro swing. It doesn't work. They don't even add up. It's like geometry and subtraction. It's ridiculous. Anyhow, so they learn top spin, they learn underspin, just I want them to feel it. And then on the serve, which I teach it from the overhead position, a good throwing motion, slice. Now you call slice also when you hit underspin on the ball this way, but there's also slice if you serve it, slice. I never teach a tap in. And all my kids, there's 3 serves, you gotta learn them all, okay? Slice, kick, and flat. Now, kick can be top spin or it can be, come to the side depending on how you're doing it. It goes this way, that way, and slices this way. So 3 serves, you got to know that. Some people play tennis for 10 years. Right. Here, let me put it to you this way. This is how bad tennis is. This is 2 years ago, I'm teaching in another club, and I lose my courts. So I got to get 2 courts, and I get, a friend and people get me into these 2 courts, which I got 8 ladies out there. I figure, well, I got to get to know the community. I get these ladies, and they've been playing for 25 years and 30 years, and they're in their 60s. Okay, well, let me see you hit, and I got to agree to do it for barely nothing, just so I get something going and get the community knowing me. So I'm part grant, giving these lessons. Anyhow, so I'm feeding the girl, let's see your forehands. They're all hitting the forehand. None of them can hit a forehand.
Why is that?
No continuity. There's no it's different every time they hit it. They don't know what topspin is. Some of them. How long have you been playing? 25 years, 20 years, 18 years, 15 years. Well, you need to take lessons. I have. How long? 25 years, 30 years. So what? Every week? From who? From where?
Are you saying that the current tennis coaches on the market right now are doing the students an injustice by not teaching top spin, bottom spin, and
now
3 types of serves?
For sure. I just know the top spin. You control the ball with spin. You got to develop a rhythm. In tennis nowadays, they hit the crud out of the ball, right?
Okay.
You can't learn to play tennis for 2 years or 3 years controlling the ball, playing like this. I'm sorry, your DNA is done. You're ruined. When you play tennis, you play it like this. In Europe, guess what? Rafa. In South America, the Spanish are vamos, and it's top spin. And the kids are 3 years old and they're going, rah. So you got the American kids over there trying to push.
Because
the great difference is that top spin at a young age here in the United States is not being taught. That's where it's very detrimental. That our system of tennis has got to change.
Okay.
Because we're falling behind Europe, we're falling behind South America, Colombia,
Spain,
They have
Croatia.
Argentinian coaches on red clay courts, and they're so fast. Their legs are so fast, they get to the ball faster and prepare faster than any
clay court. I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
Clay court is hard. It is not easy.
Right.
Listen.
Exactly.
Me covering an ATP 250, I'm looking at them slide across the court. That young gentleman who won that ATP 250, Brooksby.
Now I got something to say about
He is brilliant. He earned that spot.
Yeah.
I watched this young
What a
man
competitor.
slide, hit the ball like it was nothing. It had train smoke coming out of the ball. Okay, I'm watching him. Okay, clay court is a different animal. It is not the same.
Now, and in South America and Europe, guess what? You learn on clay. Clay, you need game.
You do.
You need game. You can't do it like the California, you know, like we learned the power, the big serve and the big forehand, and it's over. You got to have slice. You got to have the drop shot.
You do.
You got to be able to mix up the spins. So there's where American tennis. I mean, I teach that all the time. Anyhow, I teach a complete game.
Right.
You know, there's 4 styles of play. What do I teach? Everything. If I got a kid, they're going to know how to hit forehands with the continental grip. They'll know how to hit it with the eastern grip. They'll know how to hit it with a western grip. They'll know where their strike zone is. Working with a pro player one time, Russian, she got to 70 in the world, and then I traveled with her when she was 70 in the world on the WTA tour in 2008-9. And I was with her dad before that, and finally, her dad, they didn't let him travel anymore. So, you know, so she came back, and then for about a year, but there was a problem. He stuck her with steroids. Her head got big, and it was a shame. But anyhow, Bardina, Vasilisa, she could have been great. But not only did he stick her with drugs, he messed up her head too. You know, I didn't know this for a while, but you know, and then she said, yeah, my dad told me I'll be nothing you're nothing without me. And I didn't know that was messing up her head.
Yeah.
So when I figured that out, you know, I mean, really, it's all right here, people. You gotta believe who you are and what you, and have confidence, you know, and by doing it, you have confidence. So, yeah, she could have been great. Petrova knew it. We were in Cincinnati. They were all looking at her, and I worked with her for a couple months, and they were all giving me the thumbs up. We played Wickmeyer. In the first round, we would have played Maresmo in the next round, and we won a big, whopping $2,000 in Cincinnati if we win that round. Can you imagine? Nowadays, there's a little more money in it than that.
Okay.
We were starving. I was raising the money to travel and getting sponsors, and I was coaching, fathering, everything, but, you know, the only thing, Bardina, wow. Haven't brought that name up in a long time, but
Makes you feel some kind of way.
yeah, you know, there's a lot of potential there, but you know, and then anyhow,
It's okay.
yeah.
Transitioning over to soccer and football.
Let's do football. Let's do the Houston Texans here at home. Let's see how they're going to fare, what we're looking at as far as minicamp, and basically we're looking at the future of the Texans going forward.
Yeah, they're looking good. Have you been following? You following?
I'm not going to lie to you. I do not watch American football. I am sorry. I am a soccer/international football fan.
Yes.
Off the top, I will tell anybody that any day of the week. Now, before we even talk about that, we're going to finish talking about the Texans first.
Sure.
Okay. So the Texans, I couldn't even watch them for 2 years. I don't
Why?
think Chris either.
What happened?
With you know, you had the one guy in there that was the priest, and he was telling the owner what to do. And then JJ couldn't even put up with it. You know, JJ was like,
we're on the show.
you know, don't tell him.
We're on the show, right? This was in was it 2021, right?
Okay.
2021, I think it was, and we're doing TV. And I said, Coach, Chris, what do you think about the Texans? I said, Coach, we're not going to see any type of championship football, any type of postseason football to minimum at least 2024.
Yeah.
They go to playoffs.
As someone who does not watch American football, is the Texans better than the Browns?
Oh,
Right now, I would say yes.
they got that. They got that. No, very good. No.
Okay.
Since you know, we got the coach, we got the players. No, we're a talented team. Very talented.
Nice
team.
uniforms, by the way. I like the uniforms.
Yeah.
I thought that the best option for the Cleveland Browns was Baker Mayfield, and they blew it in the last year in the last postseason.
You're picking them up.
I wasn't picking them, but what I was seeing from Baker Mayfield was really like a revitalization of the Cleveland Browns, not just the team,
Yeah.
but the city.
No, they they're good. I mean, there are some organizational problems there. You know, I mean, what they did with Deshaun Watson, and I was a big Deshaun Watson fan, but he took a left turn there, and it really affected his play. He lost it, and then I noticed it during that season, and I didn't know he was sneaking out and getting some massages during the season that could have cost the team. It could have cost the team. It did cost the team. And as a leader, that's not good. But I mean, as far as the talent prior to that, then him signing the contract, the man was elite.
Well,
and now you didn't, but and then it dropped off. You lost. Completely lost.
We're at a certain restaurant that talks about the restaurant, the name of the restaurant, I ain't gonna say it.
Yeah.
But it talks about mountains and Shark Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that's the name of the restaurant.
Are you talking about the Texas' favorite Twin Peaks?
Yeah, Twin Peaks.
Okay, Twin Peaks. We are fans of Twin Peaks here on this show.
We are.
May that restaurant stay open forever.
And so when Deshaun Watson was Deshaun Watson right, Deshaun Watson left, cutting right, cutting left, throwing on the run, scoring touchdowns, I was sitting in the background and said, Coach, this ain't gonna last. Chris, he's great, he's doing great, he's won 6 in a row. Coach, this guy's not gonna work out.
Wow.
No, I called it.
Yeah, Chris never liked Deshaun. And I know a lot of people, my brother, I mean, there's some, but no, I mean, the talent, I put it up there right with anybody. But when you lose it, and then this is the same, I mean, I know in tennis, when I had a talent where I could do anything I wanted, professionals out there could probably relate with this, where when I won this tournament in '86, big celebrity tournament, I didn't lose a match. I mean, if I missed the ball, I was surprised. Could do anything I wanted.
Coach,
I reached that level.
I'm a hard believer, and I tell everybody out there right now, I'm a real super believer in discipline, training, and knowing what you have to do to have a career, whether it's playing football, baseball, accounting, anything that has to do with corporate. Yeah. This is what I'm going to tell you.
Well, he was a hard worker. That wasn't one of his problems.
Well, I'm not finished. Yeah. And in the way where doesn't sound sexist, I'm going to include it's either men or women. This is the advice I usually go, and I'm going to tell you why a little bit when we get to soccer, and I'll tell you why. Okay. But for the Texans, we talked about Deshaun Watson having those issues that were off the field.
Off the field.
Okay. And what we're having now with the new quarterback. One of the things that I'm looking at here is if you're doing sports, and I tell my stepson, my son, you want to get your career out of the way first. You want to get there. You have players that come out, have a girlfriend, have a wife, or going to be wife, and they're all, that's great, that's fine. Me personally, not everybody else. Define your position where you are. Get somewhere. I'm going to tell you like my high school football coach said, you haven't done anything yet. So why are you this person and that person, and you're off the field and you're bringing and you're doing shows and you're doing stuff that's not becoming of a superstar and a responsible player?
Are you saying that people who are players in this position should find their purpose first? Is that am I picking up?
That's what I'm saying.
Purpose first, and then relationships. Well, it's a two-bladed sword there. Sometimes you need that stability. Some people aren't formed, and I think that's been my problem.
You have your mother.
I never met my better half.
Don't give me that.
Oh God!
You have your mother, you have your grandmother, and you have your sisters.
Okay.
What more do you want?
Well, no. Yeah, but sometimes you want to get far away from those people,
Right.
Okay. They're not always the best people in your life.
If you want support, Coach, that's especially of the other sex, that's what you want.
You know that, Chris. Some people are not. You can't say that.
Totally different than a girlfriend
but some people can. Some people need it. Even in college, they have look at Tebow. No, nothing.
Yeah.
But no, you have your goal and you're driven, and when you meet that other person, if it's right, even in college or and it stabilizes you. You're not out at the bars and running around. You have a girlfriend that's got.
So you have some kind of foundation.
A mastermind.
I'm a very big and was a very big Tim Tebow fan. So what you're telling me is that God's not good enough. This is the whole.
Where did I go there? I didn't. No, I'm a big Tebow fan too.
Basically, that's what happened. I'm not being ugly about it, but what happened is that he got singled out. There was a lot of hating there because of
Amazing
who he was.
guy. I mean, if
Very
you guys know,
amazing.
do you know the
Very
numbers in that? Have you ever looked at the numbers?
I have not.
You got to look at the numbers sometime. What he changed his number, and the numbers, how many yards, and then this and that, and they all match up to. It's phenomenal.
Florida
It's just
Gator, man.
you got to look at the numbers.
It's
And
numerology.
Tim Tebow, and he
Numerology.
wore a number, and then he changed it in the game, and the coach's like, "Hey, we got a winning thing going. I'm changing the number," and it all lined up. Yeah,
It has
look at the
nothing to do with
numbers.
the stars. It has
It's
to do
beyond
with, it has to do with
beyond.
supernatural and belief.
It's
You believe this? You believe in numerology? That's
Are you saying that the supernatural has something to do, has an influence over sports? Are you
There-
saying that?
I'm saying yes. I'm saying because I played football. Look how big I am. I know.
yeah, but you were bigger
Well,
before.
Yeah, but hey,
You were a lot bigger
I really
before.
haven't changed.
You're old
I
now. You're
played in-
99 years
Coach.
old. Look at you.
Hey, he said you're
I'm in the
99.
interior. Coach.
I'm
Right,
99.
I was offensive guard,
Okay.
5'3.5".
Wow.
Going against 6-footers, 300 pounds.
Yep.
That's
I was a
big
guard.
guys.
Seriously.
Yeah, but you're strong. He's got hands. Hey, I'm like, hey, man.
I was strong. I will tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I won't lie to you.
Mm.
But a lot of it, going back to the spiritual, a lot of it has to do with if you walk on the field like, oh, I don't know if I want to win today. Heck, you've already lost.
Wow.
You gotta have the spirituality. You've gotta have the belief that you're gonna do well, regardless of who you're facing. If it's a Goliath, you gotta believe you're gonna take him down. And you face that in life all the time, whether it's sports or if it's life or if it's an illness. Especially if it's an illness, you've gotta face everything. Perseverance and be positive always, Coach.
Well, we were gonna talk about the Houston Texans here,
Right,
but
sorry, we got off track there.
I felt like we were doing with a good friend of mine.
The defense, Coach.
Yeah,
I think that last season our defense really did come around.
established one of the top in the NFL. The defense was
especially the secondary with Stingley Jr.
Yep, and they signed him. They signed him to a big
Right.
contract.
I
They gave him
believe
his
that's-
contract.
If we keep those two guys in the back, I'm making Kamari, forget his last name. But if you get those two guys in the secondary, and we picked up a new fella, our secondary can be number one.
Yeah, we did.
This season.
We got a few people, and that's yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
we're gonna have to see in training camp, see what they look like, Coach.
Okay.
Because I think that if we have a strong defense secondary, in our strong secondary, we can stop the pass and stop folks trying to run around.
Right.
It's really going to leave it up to the defensive line to
Right.
stop the run.
We haven't been out there this year. We need to get back
We're going
out.
to be
We
out
need
there
to be
soon.
calling
Going to be out
people,
there
yeah.
soon. Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, we used to go out and Chris would be able to get through Eldorado Sports and go watch them and you
Now,
know you
we've
look
covered
at how
the
they're
Texans
doing and
since
everything.
2006.
Yeah,
So
and then
yeah,
the Texans are good. So the problem the Texans have right now is did they fix the offensive line? They got rid of the line. They hired, they brought in a lot of new pieces, got rid of the big man that was, the best in the NFL. Even though the fall starts, he just didn't want to work hard. I like it where Clint, on 6'10", I mean, he quarterbacked, he was third string for the Dallas Cowboys, but I mean, he knows his stuff, and being a quarterback, I quarterbacked for a few years. I ran the show. I did it. I mean, my first year in football, I was the only quarterback in the league. I called all my own plays. Coach called me over to another coach and said, hey, he's not the best guy in the league, but he's the only one that calls his own plays. And nobody does that,
Right.
I would say what to do. We didn't win too much, but I didn't have some talent on the team. I hit Terry right in the numbers, the coach's son, and he dropped the ball, and I'm like, ah.
and as far as that's concerned, Coach, we're talking about the offensive line. You're going to hear me say this, and I say it every year to Coach, which I'm hoping one of these years he understands what I'm trying to tell him.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter if you have Mike at quarterback. It doesn't matter if you have Joe Montana or if you have one of the greats like Norman Brocklin. It doesn't matter who you have back there. What's very important is your offensive line. The Dallas Cowboys of old, of the 90s, with Troy Aikman, they had an offensive line
Right, the
that
best,
you could
the
draw
best.
a truck through.
And then what
And it
killed the
wasn't
Kansas City
my brother
Chiefs?
said this, it wasn't Emmitt Smith, it was not his speed. It was the offensive line
Oh,
making a 2 to 3
Emmett
yard.
had some
Coach,
moves,
Coach,
but I mean, no,
2 to
not
3
all of
yard
it. Those
hole.
no, Right, you could have drove a truck through it.
To the 3-yard
Drove
hole.
a truck through it.
Right.
But in the open field, Emmett, I mean, you can't knock the talent. I mean,
No, okay.
I wouldn't go
Remember,
there. It wasn't Gale Sayers, but
wait, there's 4 to 5
he
yards.
was right on his heels.
Coach, there's 4 to 5 yards before you get to the line of scrimmage. After that, it's another 4 to 5 yards before you break it. You're looking at eight to 10 yards.
Mhm.
Okay. Before that, you have at least 3 seconds where the quarterback will either get sacked, give the ball
No,
away,
we're on the same
or
page.
throw the pass.
Chris, it's a fact what he's saying. Chris says the offensive line is your keepsake.
It's your staple.
So no, it's
You
your
have to-
staple. You have to have it. They have to dominate the line. Then how did Kansas City lose the game, the Super Bowls that they did? You know how? The quarterback Mahomes had no time.
Control.
They were killing him right from the start. They were in on him, and that was the key to beating Kansas City. So yeah, and this last year they got beat because he had no time. He's running for his life back there. Now against some teams, he could make that work. So like what you say, with the offensive line. No, there's some quarterbacks that can make up for it.
Right,
But you need a good offensive coordinator that gets it out of the hand. Hut, boom, and over the top. Which, being a quarterback and being a play caller, and I used to want to be an NFL, Joe Theismann, Joe Montana. I used to look at the plays. I was planning to play NFL, but I'm thinking, wait a minute. I'm 5'9" and 3/4, and I got to get to 6 foot and 190 pounds. Soaking wet, I'm like, right now, even 155,
Yeah, you might remember.
barely 5'10",
You might remember 1990,
They would have killed me.
1989 with Joe Montana.
And that was,
You had a guy named Pierce Holt. He went to my high school.
Wow.
Before I was in high school, and this guy was about your height. He was about 5'8", 5'7", 120 pounds. By the time he was in college, okay, he was over 300 pounds, over 6 foot.
Wow.
Right, and that's why he was part of the 49ers.
But I'll tell you one thing to mentioning how you're small. Well, I like to hit. I love to hit. I'm a good hitter. All lie to me. I know how to use the shoulder. We played football games. With the older kids, I could throw a curveball at 7 years old before kids could throw the baseball. I threw a 9-pitch, 9-strike, 3-out inning one time.
What hasn't this man done?
God,
That's what I
got-
What
I got-
hasn't
it's
he
a
done?
good story.
Between the
I
both
know.
of us,
I
I've
got-
had over 150 jobs. He's had about 150 titles in sports. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
football, baseball every year, and then I had to box because everybody that I used to beat up was going to take it out on me, including Frank Rivera, who was the quarterback on steroids on the football team.
He's only 7 years
Now,
old.
I say that, guys, because that's what we lack nowadays. A good fight. When you fight, then you
talked
get
about
up
that
and you go,
yesterday.
yeah, seriously, meet at the flagpole. I wasn't worried about guns and knives and the gang. We were going to meet at the flagpole and duke it out. And then guess what? We're buddies. We're there's respect there. Hit each other in the face a couple times. You know what? Hey, you know what? He's not that bad. Most of the time. Now,
Let's cover some of those things, Coach.
there can be
because
some bad blood, but
I was really upset about the being physical. I love what you're saying because football is football because of the physicality is what the word is. I have trouble saying that. I have
American football has nothing on rugby.
no.
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm going to say
oh.
it. A lot of people are not going to say it. Only pussies wear pants. Okay?
Hey,
Houston SaberCats, number 2 in the entire country.
Oh wow.
They are going to the finals. They are going to
for
win.
America, yeah.
That's football.
We
That's
covered
awesome.
the SaberCats.
We've been there.
from Mississippi.
I'm in the gym working out, and I look at a guy. I'm at Lifetime here in Houston, and I'm stretching out on the table, and I see this guy on the ground, and I can see his leg. You can tell a rugby player, and I go, and I can
That's
tell a
a
pro
rugby
athlete being I work with pro boxers, pro tennis players. I know athletes, my whole life, and I look at this guy and I go, you're a rugby player. And he goes, how do you know? And I'm like, his legs are like this.
Yeah.
These guys, man. And I'll tell you a good story. This is just funny. Just real quick.
Get out your watch.
There's a no doubt. It's a long version and a short version.
Because he's done everything.
Yeah, can we order pizza? Can we order pizza?
Don't get down. No, 30
And
minutes left.
But this is good. And everybody out there, you've probably seen this show for American Express. The guys under the pile, And hey, they got the American Express card, you know, and everybody's going on over there, you know, and the two guys are in their car. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, he was the guy underneath there. He's an Australian guy, tough guy, Steve, my buddy's friend, my brother's good friend from the ballet company, and anyhow. So he's like, and so they were beating him up under there. He's like, hey guys, I'm not really, you know, but they were like roughing him up. Anyhow.
Talk about the Silvercats, you know, going
Silvercats,
to tennis
yes.
sports. We were there, and it's an exception when they first started. When they wanted to come here, Coach and I, we had a presentation because we're naming the team. We're finding out a lot of things about the Silvercats. I went to the corporate office. I believe it's down in Westheimer.
Okay.
Unless they've moved it. But then we figured out we're going to go ahead and have a new stadium, which is over there. With
We went to the new stadium.
The Dynamos.
Yeah, we gotta go watch some.
Yeah,
we gotta
with
go
Dynamo,
watch the next game.
Yeah, Park.
So
We should
then,
go.
a lot of the stuff with the Sabercats, you know, I found out, and I was there covering some of the practices, some of the first games. They were playing in high schools when they first started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something where, you know, and I love, and we're going back to the, you know, physicality. What I don't like about NFL football now is they're taking away a lot of the contact that people watch this sport for, which is hitting, which is hitting them a little low, which is
Yeah, they're
quarterbacks.
looking out for people with a lot of stuff, but I don't know, man.
I am a firm believer that the American football, NFL, is only looking out for its pockets and its profits.
Yeah,
that is it. If you got good players being hurt, you're not making any money.
You're not making any money.
I've talked to,
a lot of it, Coach, has to do with, you know, I've gone over this. I don't know if you know this, but I was going to start this in June. I was going to have, and I still might do it.
Okay.
I was going to have a boxing, the greatest boxers in the world, come here to Houston.
Great.
And have a press conference. The press conference is going to involve brain damage and what happens when you have a lot of
CTE.
CTE, correct.
CTE, yeah.
What CTE is basically it's an enzyme that's in your brain that causes a lot of PTSD, causes a lot of anger, causes a lot of violence. Very basically, we found that out with Junior Seau. After he passed away, he had permission to go ahead and look into his brain.
Yeah.
We found that enzyme was present, and what it does is it alters the person who has had brain damage, and we don't know that they've had brain damage, but because of the hitting in the head and all the blows, if you will, whether it's boxing or football. In this case, it was the NFL. Started back in the 70s, but if you remember, back in the early 20s, it started to come about, and then they, especially because of Seau, they started to go ahead and say, okay, we're going to give you credit for that. They started paying NFL players from the past.
Well, let me ask you a question, and this is the fundamental question. If contact sports are the leading cause of CTE in players and sportsmen of all sports, should contact sports be banned?
I don't believe that it should be banned, and like I was just explaining to you, the NFL has taken away a lot of the physicality in hitting.
Especially in the Corey League, and the young kids nowadays, they're not there, which is good. So the kids aren't getting it like they used to.
Okay.
Full contact.
This is
what
I suggest.
That's good. They're, you know.
In those leagues and in the younger leagues, you tell your child, this is what it is, and this is what I told the folks that are going to do the boxing with me.
Okay.
This is what you do. You let, even in boxing now, those who in the past, now, because in my association, 501c is going to help those in the past, those now, and those in the future, boxers, okay? But from the boxers, we're going to talk and reach out to the NFL, also NHL, right? And, of course, rugby.
Yes.
So, basically, you have the younger kids say, look, this is what can happen if you begin and you play football. This is what can happen if you play and you begin this sport, and that sport, and that sport.
Okay, so to bring awareness.
The awareness is where I think this is where we get big and we get better.
Okay.
Because without it, you have boxers that are hitting kiddos where they shouldn't be hitting them. There are fighters hitting fighters where they shouldn't be. Football, hitting people where they shouldn't be. The NFL is doing great on one part. On the other part, you're taking away the essence of what is football.
Understood. And you know what? I can actually agree to that. There has to be a little give and take there has to be some consent, has to be some informativity on someone's part. You know, I think that's fair. Now, if you inform someone and say, hey, listen, if you play this particular sport, you open yourself up to the risk of CTE or some other kind of physical or mental disability.
At least you know now going in.
At least you know going in. So that would
decision.
mean if they sign a contract knowing that that could possibly happen, more than likely it will happen over a prolonged period of time, then that means the NFL has washed their hands of any wrongdoing.
And this is, I don't know if anybody remembers, but this past year, one of the first games that Tom Brady called as a commentator, he said this very thing. This is a contact sport. I'm a quarterback. I think that I would know about getting hit. He's had broken leg. He's had ribs. He goes, I believe if we do all these things to make the quarterback safe, you're taking away from the game and what is the game.
I can agree to that. I really can agree.
But now there are certain things that, like, I watched. Okay, no, you can't catapult yourself in the air, torpedo yourself with your leading with your head into somebody. Okay, they still do it. Well, I haven't seen it lately, but like,
did OJ do that?
And then
Did OJ do that? Because OJ got a big old head. His head big. He got
the defenders, you know, like they're coming across the field, and then you know, like I watched the big guy, you know, for Tennessee.
Like Singletary used to do it for the Bears.
No, but he was quarterbacking. The big guy, the run, he runs. Anyhow.
For the Bears?
No, for he was with Tennessee for a long time. You know, the big guy. Anyhow, well, he runs the ball a lot. Okay. Not. He's retired now. And then he went to Green Bay he went to the Patriots for a little bit. Belichick had him for a little bit, and he had the offense, and it was kind of, I can't believe they're working together, you know, and it only lasted 1 year. Anyway, gosh. I watched him in a game against the Cowboys or maybe even, and it wasn't the Texans, but he took shots to the head, like helmet to helmet.
Was it McNair?
Not McNair, no. It'll come to me.
That is very dangerous.
But, yeah, I mean, like people were, and they didn't even call it like 5 times on the goal line. He kept trying to do a quarter, you know, a sneak or getting around. He would run the ball, helmet to helmet tackling him, like 5 or 6 times, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Easy concussion.
You know, crazy. Yeah, so that's got to go. I mean, there's certain things that got to go. And then, you know, the little things like if you're in the backfield and you don't want to go because you see how bad it is with Joe Theismann snapping his leg, you know, you can't dive at him low. I mean, those are just common sense things.
I saw that with the
man.
Lawrence Taylor. I saw that live
yeah.
Channel 13.
Lawrence.
He was on Channel 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He snapped it, man.
NFL football, Monday Night Football. That's what
I didn't see it. I
saw it live.
You know what's ironic about that?
So folks, you want to watch this, and they didn't play.
Another quarterback did it on the same field.
Oh wow!
In the same area, the same
of the field.
Mistake.
Yes.
Why?
It happened. It just happened.
Okay. Freak.
Yeah, a freak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely.